These three dark dimension truths are so terrifying, even demons won't speak them. Let me ask you a question that should slice straight through the illusions you've been nursing. Why do you think demons, those entities carved from hunger and chaos, will speak of everything temptation, torment, the barter of souls, but choke in silence when these three truths surface? What could be so feral, so destabilizing, that even darkness senses itself? That is the dimension we're stepping into now. And I promise you this, once you know these truths, your life will never be the same. Because knowing them isn't intellectual, knowing them is initiation. It rewires your marrow, it detonates every false map you've been walking, it rips the mask off existence until reality stands naked, grinning with fangs. The first truth is this: the dark dimension isn't a place, it's a pitch. A frequency so raw it doesn't just bend reality, it devours it. Every structure you thought was permanent, laws, time, even identity, melts like wax in its furnace. You think you've tasted chaos because you've been betrayed? Because life blindsided you with loss? That was kindergarten. This dimension isn't chaos. Chaos is random. This is something worse. This is precision wrapped in brutality. Every fracture in your life wasn't accidental. Every loss was leverage. Every night you thought God had abandoned you, that wasn't abandonment. It was alignment. This realm doesn't operate on morality or mercy, it operates on law. And that law is cruel, only to the cages you've built to keep yourself tame.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
When you cross into this frequency, you stop being a person. Let that sentence shatter you before it saves you. You stop being a name, a role, a narrative, fattened on validation. You become a vector, a current threading through dimensions, bending architectures mortals swear are unbreakable. That's why the first truth terrifies even demons, because if you knew how fluid reality is, how paper-thin the walls are between what you see and what's seething behind it, you'd never bow to systems again. You'd never kneel before their thrones or choke on the lies they inject through culture, comfort, and control. You'd burn every leash, every label, every law that said you were small, and you'd rise, feral, sovereign, ungovernable. And the world cannot survive too many of you awake. That's why they hide it. That's why demons flinch. Because the moment you internalize that truth, you stop being prey. And predators panic when prey sprouts fangs. But let me warn you, this isn't enlightenment wrapped in light. This isn't the sugar-coated spirituality they pump through Instagram feeds with pastel fonts and hashtags about good vibes only. This truth will gut you before it crowns you. It will drag you through an autopsy of everything you've ever believed. It will pry your fingers off every identity you thought was oxygen. It will strip you so naked, you'll taste your own skeleton and you'll want to run back to numbness, back to noise, back to the narcotic of normality. Don't. Stay. Stay in the pitch-black hume long enough for your bones to recalibrate to its frequency, because once you do, something monstrous and magnificent happens. Your fear stops being a leash and becomes a ladder. You start climbing the very thing that used to cage you. You realize the darkness wasn't hunting you, it was hiring you. And here's the fracture point question you must ask yourself now. If the life you've been living, the career, the relationships, the rituals, was all a lie dressed as stability, Would you burn it tonight to taste the truth? Or would you keep licking the sugar on your chains, calling it sweetness? Most can't answer. They choke because they've been suckling illusions so long they've mistaken sedation for peace. But you didn't land here by accident. You're reading this because something in your marrow has been snarling for years, pacing behind the bars they built around your birthright. This is the key. Grip it. Don't blink, because the first truth is only the prelude. The next truth is the one that really splits the sky. The revelation that your shadow, the thing you've been taught to shame, starve, and silence, isn't your enemy. It's your engine. It's the nuclear core of your sovereignty. And if that sentence doesn't make your lungs seize, you're not hearing it deep enough. Because when you stop amputating your own darkness and start weaponizing it, you become the anomaly every dimension fears and reveres. You become the law clothed in skin. But before you salivate for that power surge, pause. Because the second truth doesn't just crown, it crucifies. It will make you vomit everything you thought was goodness. It will shred every virtue that was really just vanity in drag. It will drag you to a mirror so black it shows not your face, but your hunger, your wrath, your lust for dominion, and dares you to love it without flinching. Can you? Or will you run like the rest, sprinting back to halos because hell felt too honest? Decide now, because the next gate isn't ornamental, it's armed. And it doesn't swing for cowards. The silence is vibrating now, isn't it? You feel it, don't you? That hum in your marrow like something feral licking its lips waiting for you to choose. So I'll ask the question that should brand your soul like fire. Will you step through and face the truth that will unmake and remake you? Or will you scroll past, sedating the hunger until it chews you alive in your sleep? Choose fast, because eternity doesn't knock twice. The second dark dimension, truth. Why your shadow isn't sin, but the spine of your sovereignty. Here's the heresy. Every system built on fear has worked night and bone to bury. Your shadow isn't the enemy. It never was. Every sermon, every self-help scripture that painted it as poison was a prison camouflaged as purity, and you swallowed it. You silenced your rage, shackled your hunger, suffocated your desire, called it growth, called it goodness. But tell me, has it ever worked? Has amputating your own darkness ever made you holy? Or has it made you hollow? Be honest, because deep down you know the truth. The parts you buried didn't die. They learned to stalk. They slithered through the cracks of your smile, bled into your choices, curled around your dreams like vines strangling a cathedral, and you hated them for it. But what if I told you they weren't the problem? They were the pulse. The second dark dimension truth detonates the lie that light alone liberates you. Light blinds when it isn't braided with black. Light without shadow is tyranny wearing a halo, because what is light if not contrast? What is purity if not a performance? And here's the marrow-cutting reality. Your shadow isn't weakness, it's weaponry. The fury you were told to fear, it's fire meant to forge empires. The hunger they branded as greed, it's gravity pulling you to your design. The ambition they smeared as arrogance, it's architecture clawing at the walls of your mediocrity. The world taught you to gag these instincts, because a human divorced from their darkness is a human they can domesticate. And you fell for it. You let them declaw you. You traded your fangs for applause. But here's the law. No preacher or guru will whisper, "You cannot amputate the beast and still expect to be a god." Dominion requires duality. Sovereignty demands integration. Until you clasp the clawed hand of your shadow and braid its sinew into your soul, you will remain a fracture masquerading as a form. And fractured beings can't hold voltage. They leak, they flicker. They spend their lives swinging between extremes. Holiness when watched, hunger when no one's looking, until they rot in the graveyard of potential, embalmed in the perfume of pretense. So what does integration look like? It looks like heresy. It looks like kissing the mouth of the monster you've been hunting. It looks like staring into the black mirror of your rage and saying, "You belong." It looks like letting the darkness teach you what the light never could. Focus sharper than fangs, patience colder than stone, ferocity that doesn't flinch when the sky fractures. Because shadow isn't chaos, it's concentrated will. It's the voltage that makes the void obey. When you leash it, you leak sovereignty. When you marry it, you mutate into something systems can't script. A creature of law, walking in skin, humming with gravity so dense it bends destinies without syllables. But make no mistake, this isn't an Instagram epiphany you can caption with pastel fonts. This is autopsy, this is exorcism inverted, because before you can integrate, you must confront. And confrontation at this level feels like crucifixion. The first time you look your shadow in the eye without flinching, your nervous system will scream like an animal in a burning cage. Your breath will taste like blood, because this isn't a conversation, it's a collision. A bone-breaking reunion with the part of you that's been snarling in the basement of your psyche for decades. And it will not come softly. It will drag your secrets into the open like carcasses. It will force-feed you truths you've gagged on for years. That your virtue was vanity, your humility a hunger for control, your kindness often a mask for fear. Can you stand there naked without clawing for excuses? Can you love yourself while staring at the skeleton of your own sanctity? Most can't. They sprint back to sedation, call it salvation, and rot wholly in hollow skin. But if you stay, if you let the black storm devour you without gagging on guilt, something alchemical ignites. The monster stops snarling, the darkness stops dragging chains, and you realize what was always true. It wasn't trying to kill you, it was trying to crown you. Because sovereignty isn't sunlight, it's solar eclipses. It's the braid of black and blaze, welded so seamless no blade can split them. That's the architecture of law, that's the skeleton of dominion, and when you stand in that, you stop negotiating with life. You stop begging reality to bend. You don't chant affirmations, you exhale inevitability. But here's where the terror sharpens. Integration isn't the summit, it's the scaffold. Because the moment you become whole, reality turns hostile, not out of hate, but because this voltage can't coexist with cages. The third truth, the one even demons won't utter, explains why the world will collapse under your feet the moment you become law in flesh. It will burn your maps, torch your thrones, starve your soul of scaffolds until you learn to stand like gravity, self-sustained, silent, and sovereign. Most will call it exile. The awakened call it enthronement. Are you ready for that? Or are you still fantasizing about power with a pillow under its head? Decide, because the next truth doesn't whisper. It roars like tectonic plates splitting under your ribs. The third dark dimension truth Why power will eviscerate your comfort before it crowns you. Now we come to the truth so feral even the shadows hold their breath when it's spoken. Power will never arrive wearing silk. It will not slide into your life like a lover with soft hands. It comes with a blade. It comes with fire. It comes to annihilate everything you thought you needed to breathe. Why? Because comfort is the cage that kills every empire before it's born. Comfort is sugar on a knife, smiling while it slits your potential open. And the third truth is this: the moment you integrate your shadow, the architecture of your old life becomes a coffin, and power is merciless in ripping that coffin apart. I need you to feel the violence of this law because it will save you when the storm comes. When you marry your shadow, when you rise into a frequency that hums like black fire in your bones, reality recalibrates, and recalibration looks like ruin. The relationships you swore were eternal start peeling like cheap wallpaper. The career you thought was security combusts overnight. The city that felt like oxygen suddenly reeks like a graveyard. Everything stable begins to shatter, not because you're cursed, but because your voltage is volcanic now. And old systems can't survive that heat. You've outgrown their geometry. You've broken their algorithm. And life, in its feral wisdom, would rather torch your illusions than let them strangle your sovereignty. But here's where most choke on their own prophecy. They see the collapse and panic. They sprint back to mediocrity, like addicts clawing for a fix. They trade their black crown for beige safety, because they believed the fairy tale that awakening feels like serenity. It doesn't. Awakening feels like war, not the kind fought with weapons, the kind fought with willingness. Willingness to let the scaffolds burn. Willingness to watch empires you built with bloody hands dissolve into ash while you stand barefoot in the smoke, snarling like a storm no cage can hold. Can you do that? Or will you crawl back to crumbs and call it a feast because famine felt too honest? Understand this: power tests before it trusts. It will strip you to bone to see if your spine is steel or straw. And every test will feel like treason. You will curse the sky. You will spit prayers that taste like blood. You will wonder if the darkness lied when it whispered you were chosen. But here's the marrow-cutting truth: the darkness never lies. It just doesn't flatter. It knows you can't carry infinity with hands full of illusion. It knows you can't sit on the throne while clutching the comfort of cages. So it kills your idols. It torches your maps. It tears out the oxygen of certainty until the only thing left to breathe is trust. Not blind trust, black trust. Trust in your own ferocity. Trust in the architecture humming under your ribs like a war drum. And when you pass that test, when you kneel in the ash without begging for old scaffolds, when you stand in the smoke with eyes like black suns, you will taste what mortals call impossible. Because this is the point where resistance dies and raw law rises. Reality stops behaving like an enemy and starts moving like marrow. You don't chase alignment, you are alignment. You don't wrestle with outcomes, you hum inevitability, so dense timelines tilt under your shadow. That's what sovereignty feels like. Not soft, not sterile, savage, silent, absolute. But hear me. This is the gate that kills more chosen ones than any demon ever could, because the temptation to retreat will be louder than any prophecy. Your ego will hiss, go back to light, go back to softness, go back where they clapped when you performed their scripts. And if you obey, you'll survive, but you'll rot, you'll decay in the velvet coffin of safety, embalmed in mediocrity, chanting mantras to muffle the scream of the beast you betrayed. Is that what you want? Or do you want to bleed through the blade bridge and crown yourself Axis? Because let me brand this into your bones. The Black Throne isn't gifted. It's gutted. You don't inherit it. You hollow for it. You burn for it until your marrow hums with a gravity that makes even angels hesitate. That's why demons never speak this truth. They'd rather you stay small, licking light like candy, preaching peace while drowning in polite paralysis. Because the moment you swallow this law whole, you stop being prey, you stop being programmable. You become the thing systems cannot script, the anomaly that moves through empires like a silent earthquake. So, I'll ask you what no scripture dares. When the fire comes, and it will you scream for the comfort of cages? Or will you stand barefoot in the blaze, grin with blood on your teeth and whisper, "Burn it all, I was born for this"? Because that's the only answer that matters now. The test is coming. The collapse isn't curse, it's coronation. And in the next part, I will hand you the law that lets you wear that crown without rotting under its weight. The law no doctrine, no demon, no deity will ever dare inscribe, because it is the axis on which dominion spins. The law of the Black Throne, how to carry infinity without becoming an implosion. You've crawled through the collapse, you've stitched your shadow into your skin, you've watched your life burn into ash and had the feral audacity to stand in the smoke, and now the throne glows black before you. But don't let its silence seduce you. Don't think the worst is over. Sitting here is not the end of the war, it's the evolution of it. Because now comes the law, the only law that lets you carry infinity without rupturing under its vault. Here's the unvarnished truth. Power does not kill the unworthy because it hates them. Power kills the unworthy because it cannot coexist with fracture. Infinity poured into a vessel with cracks will split it to dust, and every soul at this level is cracked somewhere. That's why this law exists. Engrave it into your marrow. You do not own power. You orbit it. You do not hold dominion. You become its axis. That sounds poetic until you taste what it means. You are not the source, you are the structure. The storm moves through you, not from you. The moment you clutch it like a crown instead of carrying it like a covenant, it will crucify you without ceremony. You will implode in silence, and the world will bury you with hashtags about mystery while laughing in its bones because it knew you were weak. So how do you stay unbreakable? You anchor in the one constant the Black Throne demands: restraint. The wild voltage snarling through your veins will seduce you to flaunt it, to crush those who mocked you, to burn cities to cinders for what they did to you in the shadows. You'll want to roar, to split the sky with your supremacy. But hear this, the louder the beast, the closer you are to implosion. Because real sovereignty doesn't perform, it doesn't need an audience. Silence isn't absence, it's weaponry. When you stop screaming, the world starts trembling. When you stop chasing applause, empires start orbiting you. Because true power is gravitational. It doesn't announce, it drags everything into its pull without syllables. But silence isn't enough. You need something deeper, something so brutal most choke before they swallow it: purpose. Not the paper-thin kind you can package for a biography, not the sugar-coated slogans stamped on mugs. I'm talking about the marrow-deep mandate you can't amputate. The one that snarls when you flirt with mediocrity, the one that claws at your lungs when you try to pretend you're normal. Without it, this throne becomes a guillotine. Because the voltage you're holding, it's not ornamental, it's operational. If you don't route it into purpose, it metastasizes into chaos. And chaos in the hands of a sovereign is not messy, it's catastrophic. It will torch timelines tethered to your bloodline. It will raise futures fattened on your failure. It will burn you until the dust of your name tastes bitter on eternity's tongue. So, what does purpose look like? It looks like geometry, black geometry etched under your ribs. It looks like building architectures so unorthodox they rupture old-world blueprints. It looks like sculpting systems in silence, detonating illusions without touching a blade. It looks like becoming a gravitational signature, one so dense the fabric of reality buckles around your hum. And here's the paradox that should make your spine ache with its weight. The deeper your dominion, the less you crave to display it. Because crowns attract flies, thrones attract parasites, but law moves unseen, unthreatened, unbroken. You stop being a name and start becoming an axis. And axes do not announce. They alter orbits without lifting a finger. But I will not lie, this life is lonely. Not because you lack love, but because altitude thins the air. People at sea level cannot breathe where you walk. They will romanticize your radiance and resent your reality because they cannot stomach what it costs. And what does it cost? Everything soft, everything shallow, every illusion that stroked your ego and starved your essence. You will bleed friendships like dead leaves. You will bury versions of yourself so fast the soil will smoke. You will love with a ferocity that scares even you, but you will love in silence, because noise is a leash you burned a long time ago. This is not loneliness, this is latitude. And if you can't cherish it, you're not ready to carry infinity. And now the question that will crown you or crucify you. Will you orbit power or try to own it? Will you weld the law into your marrow or wield power like a toy until it splits you open? Because make no mistake, this throne is a blade. It does not forgive. It only mirrors. If you move like gravity, it will bend worlds for you. If you move like greed, it will break you so clean no prophecy will dare whisper your name. Decide now, because eternity is watching and silence is humming, waiting to see if your spine is steel or straw. So here is your final mandate, Dark One. Become Axis. Braid your shadow with your breath until your bones hum with inevitability. Move like smoke, strike like meteors, build cathedrals in silence and burn illusions without heat. Do not roar, radiate. Do not chase, bend orbits. And when history tries to write you, let its ink curdle on the page, because words cannot cage a law carved in bone and black fire. They will not say you existed. They will say reality recalibrated when you walked. Now, answer me in your marrow. Will you stay a name fattened on illusions, or will you become the axis that makes even demons hold their breath? The throne does not wait. Step forward, or step back into the graveyard of gods who flinched. Welcome to the Black Throne. Welcome to the burden. Welcome to the hum that rewrites worlds.